Here we are back at STS. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the switch list for train number 60. Okay, and it said we were to bring down 2 refrigerator cars and 2 box cars and spot them in, set them out in the yard, and then train 61 would then take them and spot them as necessary. Okay, so now our break is over and we are now train number 61. Well, I'll take that back. First we have to close out train 60's switch list. This is where we tell the system what work we did. So these are the 4 cars we brought down from Winthrop, and every one of them we just set out in the yard. So that's all we're doing here is we're marking them in the New Ulm yard. That's where we set them out. And finish up. So now if we go back to our station car report and look at what cars should be in New Ulm, I should have 8 cars there. I've got an empty lumber flat at the lumber yard that's going to be repositioned. I have an empty hopper car coming out of the power plant. I have a insulated boxcar coming off the transfer to be loaded with butter at the team track. I have an insulated boxcar in the yard to head over to the transfer to be loaded with cheese. I have another insulated boxcar for the same thing. I have that loaded hopper car of coal in the yard that needs to go up to the power plant. I have a boxcar of canned goods that is heading off stage to the New Ulm Wholesale, New Ulm Grocery Company, which is local switching is done by the CNNW there. And I have a Rock Island boxcar full of lumber going to the lumber yard. So those are the cars that are in the yard at the time. All right, so what I need to do now is I need to build my switch list for number 61. Now, I think we already did a little bit for it based on what we knew in the early on. Yeah, it already had 4 cars there. It had the stuff that was already in New Ulm. But things have changed. More cars came in, more work to be done. So I'm going to go back here to build switch lists again, and I'm going to go to New Ulm. And here are the 4 cars that came in on 60. And now 61 has to deal with these. Again, anything going to a 553 customer is handled by 61, and anything going to 999 offstage is handled by 92, but in order to get it there, 61 has to put it onto the transfer track. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 61 deal with all of these. And once 61 takes these 3 here that are going to 999 offstage and sets them on the transfer track, then number 92 will be able to grab them and move on from there. All right, so there we go. Now those are 61's switch list is built. So what do we got? So here we have 61 is going to deal with 8 cars. We've got to take 2 of them back to Winthrop with us. We've got to put 1 on the team track, 3 go to the transfer, 1 goes to lumber, and 1 goes to the power plant. So I'm going to print this. And then we're going to go back over to Extract CAD and actually do the work. And once we get done with that, we'll come back and close out the switch lists for number 61. And then we'll be ready to go. Back at Extract CAD, what we're going to do now as train 61 is we're going to do work on our switch list. What I've got to do is we got to swap these 2 hoppers. This is the empty one. This is the full one. This is an empty 2. So I'm going to take this empty and stick it up here by the 2 line because those are the 2 that we'll have to take back with us to Winthrop. I'm also going to put my caboose over here on the fertilizer track just to get it out of the way. So once I get the 2 hoppers swapped, I'm going to come in here and dig out the Rock Island, because that needs to go to the lumberyard eventually. I need to get that out of there and then get these 3 C&W cars that are going to the transfer, and I'll take that over to the transfer and come back with the one that's on the transfer now. The one that's on the transfer now is going to go to the team track, and the Rock Island is going to end up here, and the loaded hopper is here, and so then I take the 2 empty hoppers and the caboose with me back to Winthrop. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we got to pull up a little bit just to get clear of that switch. I'm going to put the caboose over on the co-op track here just to get out of the way. We'll grab that later and tack it on the end of the train once we get a lot of this running around taken care of. Right now my runaround track is full. Okay, so we'll leave that guy there. Okay, now I'm going to go into the power plant. Grab that hopper. Come forward and hook onto the loaded hopper. We'll go and we'll stick that into the power plant on the coal unloading spot. So I think this is a good example of how just even a small yard with just a few number of customers can generate a lot of work. The small layout there in the smaller of the rectangle started out just as a switching puzzle, and it's a little modified version of the Time Saver by John Allen. Moved a few of the tracks around, but it's basically the same concept. And I got that pretty well down, and I decided to put a continuous running track on there just to be able to do some testing of locomotives and things like that, and then threw a few more sidings in on the back side there as a staging yard, and that's working out pretty well. This thing keeps me busy for a while. A couple there. Okay. I'll go ahead and shove this one in on the track with the empty lumber flat, because those are the 2 we have to get out of here eventually. On my N-scale railroad, there is a road crossing here, so I have to keep that clear. There's a grade crossing there. Okay, so now what we have to do is get out here, and I need to dig out that Rock Island car and set that aside and take the other 3 C&W cars down to the C&W transfer. So back up and hook onto these guys. couple this one here. And I'm going to stick that up on the main track there just for a bit while I get the work done over at the transfer, and then we're going to come back and deal with this stuff. The interesting thing about using the STS system is that the randomness of it, I mean, the switching problems and the blocking and everything you have to do it's seldom the same. There's always another quirk that's going in there. I mean, you see some of the same stuff from time to time. You need to take 3 cars down to transfer, stuff like that, but it seldom repeats itself, and so that's why I built that randomness factor into the shipper-driven traffic simulator, because sometimes with card systems and other ones, there tends to be a lot of repetition, and you're seeing the same thing over and over again. With this, you very seldom have the same traffic patterns. Okay, so we got our 3 cars for the transfer. We're going to go down there now and pull out that one car that's going to go to the team track. So in real life, the M&L did have a connection with the C&NW, and after the Northwestern bought out the M&L, they took out the track north and south of New Ulm, and so that the little industrial area was just a little island by itself. And so for a while, the M&L still had their own yard job there that took care of the industries, and then after that was abolished, then the regular New Ulm switcher had to go over to the M&L side and service the industries. And then after a while, those industries left, shut down, changed, and we got off the rail traffic, and then the city and a bunch of other people, they worked on removing the M&L altogether. And so now it's a lot of bike trails and so on. There are a few pieces of industry siding left yet that you can get at from the northwestern side, but the yard and all the industry tracks in the central part of town are gone. And it used to be that the M&L did service a wider variety of customers than the northwestern side did, which was really unusual. The northwestern was there first, and they had a lot of customers, but when the M&L came in, they had a lot of really different, wide variety of customers, and I think actually the count of customers was quite a bit higher on the M&L. Whether they shipped larger quantities or not, that's probably not the case, but okay, so there we got that empty insulated boxcar. Pull out, stick that back on the main track, shove those 3 C&Ws in there for number 92 to pick up later, and then head back to town. There we go. Okay, we'll just leave that guy there for a second. Okay, we can back up. And we'll be seeing these three cars later again because one is going to deliver canned goods to a local grocery warehouse, and the other two are going to get loaded up with cheese, and the cheese ones are going to come back for sure. The empty on the empty box car going to the grocery company warehouse, I don't know if that'll come back or not. That might stay on the C&W off stage for future use, future loads coming from that direction. Okay, there we are. Clear the switch. Come on back. There we go. When we come back, when it gets back to town here, I think what we're going to do is we're going to run straight through the team track, spot the Rock Island, pull those two empties out of there, shove them down the main towards the transfer to get some room to work, run around the caboose, and then we should be ready to depart. Okay, that switch is lying correctly. We're going to hang on to this RBWX car here just till the end. That's the last thing we got to do is spot that on the team track, and we'll do that right before we leave. Okay, we got to stop and throw the switch here. We can pull ahead. Hook onto the Rock Island, which is going to end up in the lumber yard. Okay, now we're going to go in and get those two empties. Okay. Second, I think I'm going to put them in on the team track, and I'm going to get the caboose and put it in on the tail end of that. That way I'll have my outbound train all ready to roll. Okay, shove these guys up in here. Okay, I'm going to put the Rock Island spot that at the lumberyard, grab the caboose, put it on the end of those two empties. That'll leave the insulated box car in the right position to get dropped at the team track just as we leave. Okay, here we are stopping. Okay, is it the lumberyard? Oops, we're going to grab the caboose here now. It works out that I have 2 outbound cars and a caboose, and then 1 car for the team track. That's 4, and that'll fit on that. It'll still let me get around to the front end of it. Still throw that one. Yep, there we go. Just a few more minutes here, we'll be all set. Okay, a couple here. Pull ahead just a few feet. There we go. A couple there. All right. Come back around, get on the front of the train, and we are ready to go. So just to verify the switch list, I've got the Sioux line and the CNW 135 coming with me. I've got the RBWX on the team track, the CNW 5029 at the power plant, the Rock Island at the lumberyard, and the other 3 on the transfer. Okay, let me get back in here. Hopefully I don't hit too hard that the caboose couples back onto that RBWX car again. There we go. Okay. And now we're ready to go out. What we would do now is we would go back to the STS system and close out the work we did here. So we would tell it we spotted the car at the power plant, we spotted the car at the team track, we spotted the Rock Island at the lumberyard, and we spotted the 3 other ones on the transfer. And that would close out that portion of the switch list. We would still have the 2 other empties heading back with us. The switch list will still show that heading back to Winthrop with us. Okay, so here we go. Then when we get back to Winthrop, we can close out the remaining part of the switch list. By closing out the part in New Ulm we've done now, that gives the people who are running number 92 a chance to do that work without having to wait for us to get all the way back to Winthrop and close out the switch list at that point. And again, going at the blazing speed of 15 miles an hour, here we are back at Winthrop at the MNCL off stage. Pull in and tie up there and go back to STS and finish up the paperwork. Okay, we're getting ready to close up the day. What we did was we finished up train 61. So we're going to go out to close out the switch list. If we look at the switch list now, it shows all 8 cars that we had to deal with today. We're going to go back and close out a portion of that. So the Sioux line is what is heading with us. The empty hopper is heading with us. The team track, or the RBWX, was spotted at the team track, so I'm going to mark that as team. The 2 ones heading to be loaded with cheese are not at offstage yet. I'm going to mark them as being on the transfer, and then number 92 has to finish them up. The coal load for the power plant is at power plant 1. The canned goods heading over towards the grocery warehouse on the Northwestern, that's also on the transfer. And the Rock Island is at the lumberyard. So we're going to leave these 2 alone, which means that we close out this portion of the switch list, and those 2 guys are still on it. So we're going to do that. Okay, so now if we go to the switch list for 61, all we see are those 2. The other ones have now been updated. All right, so in the meantime now, we can go to the switch list for number 92. Those are the cars in the transfer there. And number 92 will take them to the off stage. We can do this at the same time that our way freight is heading back to Winthrop. So these guys don't have to wait for the way freight to get back to Winthrop and close out the entire switch list. They're able to go ahead with what they have right now. So those guys pick it up. Okay. And since that's an 050 switcher, the hands come out, and we will close out that switch list right away. That only took a matter of seconds. So they're all at 999 off stage. Okay. And about now, number 61 is getting back to Winthrop. Pulls in there, so we can go to 61, what's left of its switch list, and we can mark them as all being set out at off stage like that. So then to verify, we can go back to the station car report, and we can look at New Ulm, and all we see are the Rock Island at the lumberyard unloading, the Northwestern hopper at the power plant unloading, and the RBWX mechanic, or the insulated boxcar at the team track loading with butter. So work's been done for the day. All the jobs have run. The one thing we can do now is we can load and unload cars. Okay, if we had a industry that operated multiple shifts, ran 24 hours a day, we can unload and unload cars anytime. On my model here on the demo, we're only loading and unloading cars once a day, but you can do it more often. So we're going to load and unload cars. So these are all the cars that are eligible to be loaded, unloaded, released, or whatever the case may be. So we've got the 2 empties that are now at off stage, so they can be released for future use. The Rock Island is now finishing being unloaded at the lumberyard. The Northwestern hopper is finishing unloading at the power plant. The RBWX car is finishing loading up butter at the team track. The 2 Northwestern cars are at the craft plant, cheese plant, loading up cheese. And the last Northwestern box car is at the grocery warehouse unloading canned goods. So we're going to check all of these. If for some reason you had a slow customer and one of these things was not loaded or unloaded, you wouldn't have to check that one. But we're going to check all of them and click update. And so now when we go back to our station car report and look at New Ulm, it says we have an empty at the lumberyard, empty at the power plant, and a loaded car at the team track full of butter ready to go. So that is the end of the daily cycle. And so the next time we would run the operating system or operating session, we come in and generate car orders, fill them, reposition empty cars if we have to, and just work our way down. and keep continuing building and closing out switch lists as the jobs run. So hopefully this explained a little bit more about how to use this shipper-driven traffic simulator. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My email address is included with all the documentation.